Toga did what to Deku? Welcome back to Minx, and I'll be breaking down the 7th episode of My Hero Academia Season 7, which is titled Inflation, sharing the same title as Chapter 347, which is referring to Shigaraki's increase in number of fingers created by his body due to having conquered the quirk singularity theory. The episode begins with a flashback to a few days ago of All Might discussing the plan to divide and conquer the villains. For the anime, All Might further explains the plan this time, including Aoyama's and Shinso's role in tricking All for One, Troy being used to split up the villains, Monoma using Kurogiri's quirk to teleport the villains and heroes to 5 different locations. Shigaraki is said to be transported to Yue's coffin in the sky, and have Monoma copy Aizawa's quirk to erase Shigaraki's quirk. The team heading to fight Shigaraki will center around Deku and include high-ranking heroes like Best Genius, Edgeshot, and Mirko. All for One will be teleported to Gonga Villa, and the team heading to fight them will be formed around Endeavor and Hawks. Dabi will be teleported to Kamino Ward. The team being sent here will deal with the fire abilities and will compromise of Shoto and Endeavor's sidekicks along with Ida. Toga will be sent to Okuto Island in order to isolate her due to her being hard to predict on what she'll do. The team heading there are formed around Gang Orca, with Ochako and Froppy joining them as they have the most experience fighting against Toga. I really like that the anime here showed Kurogiri being at the hospital and Gigantomachia at Jak, who are likely targets for the villains to come and set free, thus adding 8 locations in total to where heroes and villains will be fighting at. Overall, this anime explanation made a lot of things clear for viewers on what's going on and who is where in the war, and I really appreciate this, as I will say it can be a little too much for everyone to know where who is at, and people really complained for this long flashback in this episode. That's one problem, I do get it. And after the opening, Shigaraki continues to attack the rest of the heroes like how it ended in the previous episode, and the growth of fingers just hits Mirko. The heroes come to the conclusion that this couldn't be a quirk, as Monoma is still keeping his eye on Shigaraki. Shigaraki explained that this is just a simple growth of his body on its own, similar to the way hairs or nails grow longer. The body has to adapt to constantly changing quirks, and the new form he's acquired represents the next step of super-powered society, aligning with the singularity proposed by Garaki. However, they dismissed this theory long ago, unable to fully understand it. As Shigaraki explains his singularity form, the anime shows Mirko, Best Genius, and Bakugo escaping from Shigaraki's grasp. Mirko, having received new limbs, teams up with Bakugo, but Best Genius keeps them focused on the villain ahead. Deku contacts Aizawa, but the anime makes a few changes in the scene. When Deku tells Aizawa that he's on Okuto Island because Toga pulled him through a portal, the anime adds some interference. This makes it so Aizawa can only catch a few words of what Deku is saying, which makes more sense given how far Deku is from UA's base in the sky. Deku requests a warp, but Aizawa realizes they can't risk it. Monoma can only activate one copied quirk at a time, and switching from Erasure to Warp Gate to retrieve Deku would take about 10 seconds. Aizawa sees Best Genius holding up one finger, signaling that if all of Shigaraki's multiplying hands can activate DK, they will die the moment Erasure is undone. Best Genius holding up his finger in this moment is a reference to Avengers Endgame, where Doctor Strange signals to Iron Man about the one possible future where they beat Thanos. Aizawa tells Deku that he has to make it to UA on his own, when all of the heroes at UA line up in a cool action pose. The anime actually takes away the detail of Mirko being on top of Best Genius fibers, which is a little disappointing because it was so cool to see her do that pose on top of the fibers in the manga. Switching over to Okuto Island, we get an added shot of the island, and the anime even extends the beginning of the battle as we see Gang Orca staring down at their high-end Nomu as it prepares to launch an attack at the heroes. Moonfish gets an added close-up after taking out a bunch of heroes. He also has a brand new costume. Here we see that Ochako and Deku get separated from Froppy after the last attack, and Ochako gets a little added scene of her floating a villain away before talking to Deku about what Aizawa has said to him. And guess what? That villain never comes back, so probably Ochako legit killed a person if they continued to float in the space. Moving on, Toga attacks Deku, and he realizes that Danger Sense doesn't recognize the threat she poses as actual danger, and that's because Toga feels genuine affection when she hurts people she loves. And she does the thing. She asks Deku to be her boyfriend. Deku is just absolutely flabbergasted at the fact that Toga confessed her love to him, as despite everything he's gone through in the series, he was still very inexperienced when it came to something like love. Another wave of spikes by the Nomu comes crashing down onto the battlefield, and Toga asks Deku the same question she asked Ochako back during the Paranormal Liberation War arc on what does he want to do to her. The Waves in Chaos hides Toga and she's able to mask her presence from Deku here. Deku tells her that he understands the fulfillment of wanting to be like someone, as he always wanted to be strong like All Might, but he can't imagine wanting to share the same heart and mind as All Might. Plus, he would never want to hurt someone he loves, and unsatisfied with his answer, Toga says that he's just like Ochako and her parents, referring to them rejecting her for who she was. Toga attacks Deku and Ochako tackles Toga, telling her that she's been thinking about her since that day. Toga says if the world rejected her, then she will reject the world too, as her fangs come in from behind, taking Ochako's attention away from Toga and stabs Ochako right in the shoulder. And before Toga can drop the bomb on Deku that Ochako and her both fell in love with him, Froppy and Deku kick and pull Toga away from Ochako as Froppy tells Deku to leave. Ochako looks at Deku and tells him to get Shigaraki. The detail of Nana, Shimura and the third user of One For All showing up as Deku is talking about using their quirks are both removed. The second user of One For All tells him to relax and that his quirk is meant to be used as a last resort, and that One For All grew in strength and so did all of their meta abilities, and as a result has evolved into a particularly unique power. And it's not something that can be used the same way it was used back in the past. Back to Ochako, the anime once again doesn't adapt the spikes coming down to the battlefield full of heroes and villains. Froppy thinks to herself about how she couldn't stand the thought of Ochako's secret of liking Deku being exposed. We see that Toga is ready to be who she wants to be in her life and touches her pouch filled with vials of blood, one of them being twice his blood. Both Ochako and Toga get ready to fight with each other. Switching over to Ground Zero in Kamino World, we see an added shot of a bunch of fallen heroes. Dabi hangs on to All Might's statue as he thinks back to the incident in Hosu that spurred him to take action against Endeavor. Dabi takes flight as he admits that he's very unsatisfied with the fact that Endeavor won't pay him any attention once again, only sending his sidekicks and Shoto to stop him. Kido thinking about his 10 years working under Endeavor, the anime adds a shot of the backs of Endeavor and his sidekicks as Burnin shows her support to Endeavor and Shoto. Shoto tells Dabi that he's here to stop him and he didn't come on anyone else's order. Dabi calls Shoto the perfect little pawn, and Shoto responds by saying if he ignored Dabi and kept trying to be a hero anyways, then him being a pawn would be true. Dabi actually agrees with Shoto and says in the end this war is about people involved and not a bunch of soldiers acting on someone's orders. The war is the result of each person's feelings getting out. Some want to change the world they live in, some want to change the world around them or destroy the imbalances built up over time that we all just came to accept. Superhuman society has reached its limit and they embody it all. Shoto asks Dabi why he never returned to home, as Toya is about to tell him how he became Dabi. The anime doesn't adapt the panel showing Dabi's flesh being burnt in the flame. The episode ends with Dabi's skin burning off of his face as he begins to tell Shoto the truth of how he became Dabi. This episode adapted a total of 3 chapters, them being chapter 347, 348 and 349. This episode had a lot of consistent animation, character designs and portrayal of emotions. I'll give this an 8 out of 10. Imagine if people complain the fire looks too blue. I feel there will still be many fans unsatisfied with the next episode, but the staff is pretty good and they even posted a key visual. This means they have actually cooked for this fight. I can't wait for the next episode because the Todoroki family drama is coming back once again, and this might be actually one of the best episodes in the series. So let me know your thoughts on this episode, and if you enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like and stay tuned for more My Hero Academia videos by subscribing to my channel. That is it for this video. Thank you so much for sticking till the end, and I'll see you guys next week.